Welcome to the Teamwork Advantage podcast with Greg Gregory. Join us as Greg interviews powerful thought leaders and successful team and leadership experts from across the country on teamwork, leadership, and organizational culture. Now let's check in for this week's episode.
Welcome back to the Teamwork Advantage. Hi, I'm Greg Gregory, founder and creator of the Teamwork Advantage, a podcast that's dedicated to the growth and development in three key areas: teamwork, leadership, and culture. And when we talk about teamwork, leadership, and culture, it works in every aspect of your life because we have to lead parts of our lives. We have to be a team in most of our lives, and the culture we live in all of our lives. Joining us today is Dr. Holsapple. Get your name pronounced correct here, sir. Dr. Eric Holsapple. He's an award-winning entrepreneur and CEO in the real estate industry. We have some background there. I was on the residential side. He's also the founder of Living in the Gap, and that's been interesting, the research I've been doing behind on that. It's an organization that guides heart-centered executives and professionals to embrace mindfulness in their careers and their personal lives to bring a greater positive influence into today's world. And boy, don't we need that. His new book is called Profit with Presence. You can see it over his shoulder if you're watching the video, and it's coming out in early March of 2023, so be ready for that. It's also available for pre-order right now. Dr. Eric, welcome to the Teamwork Advantage.
Good morning, Greg, or good afternoon for you, good morning for me, but thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on board here. I'm always intrigued with different aspects of health and how it can apply to the teamwork and the leadership. And to say that leadership and leading is different today than it was even pre-pandemic 5 years ago, 50, it's drastically different as we change through time. I can remember my father used to say, I don't need to motivate anybody, they're supposed to be here and do their damn job. That's not exactly the case today. So we're going to talk to you about, we want to understand some of those ideas about mindfulness. You've got your 12 pillars of leadership, which I think is powerful. But before we get into all of the nitty gritty, did you grow up one day and say, I want to be a doctor, have my PhD? Or give us a little bit of your backstory to where you are. Listeners always want to know where you're coming from, not just where you are now.
I woke up one day when I was about 30 and said that.
Okay.
But it wasn't when I was a little kid. No, I came from a little rural Maine, and sounds like our dads weren't too dissimilar. I grew up working. We worked at a campground, cleaning toilets, working campsites, and I learned to love to work at an early age. I went through to college and got my MBA. And the one thing that was more than school for me is every time I worked, I rose to the top. I just was good at work. So I got out my MBA, went into real estate. And within a couple of years, I was the manager of an Australian firm's their North American operations. I came out of Colorado State in Colorado. Then they moved me to Los Angeles, and before I knew it, I was CEO, president of the North American operation, traveling 50 weeks a year. Had all the trappings of success, the title, Mercedes, the apartment on the waterfront, all the stuff, but I was miserable. Inside, I was overweight. I drank too much. I was single. I wasn't happy. And so I got transferred to Boston. And the good news was in Boston, there were enough problems in town. I didn't have to travel. So I got to sit still for a little bit, bought a scale and got on it and said, geez, I was an athlete. What am I doing? I was way overweight. And I just had an epiphany moment, looked in the mirror and said, you better make some changes or you're not going to be around very long. That's when I decided to go back. I said, I'm going back to school. I'm going to go teach. I'm going to find my purpose. I'm going to, met my wife, lost a bunch of weight. I started running again, which I was a track guy growing up, got that kind of stuff. And the big thing that happened for me is I found yoga. Just started yoga. And that was my first entry into mindfulness. And it was like I had been disconnected from my body, and I got reconnected with my body. And it helped with my diet. It helped with everything, helped with my stress. Then a year or so later, I watched my older brother started meditating. And he was a poet and my dad was a football coach. And they were estranged. It was like oil and water. My dad wanted to play football. He didn't want to play, and he played anyway. And anyway, for about 10 years, they were pretty strained. But then I watched my brother come back towards my dad a little bit at a time. And when he opened up to my dad opened up, and I got my whole family back. It was like my brother said, "Do you want to try it?" And I said, "Heck yeah." That was amazing. The first time I saw how one person changed. My dad didn't change, he didn't. He was set in his 70s and he wasn't going to change. But I noticed how my brother changed everything. His perception, his acceptance, and all that kind of stuff. So I started, it was a game changer for me. I liked it. For years I was a closet meditator and I did my yoga and I didn't talk about it or anything. But then later on at work, I started, being better around people. And I was always a great negotiator and hard driver in finance, and I was okay with relationships, but I got better and I got to be someone that slowed down enough to talk to people. And people one at a time would ask me things and what changes with you? And then it got introduced to work through that way. Before I knew, we started a seed group with one other guy and I. Before I knew it, the room was full, reading books and talking about mindfulness and doing centering. And God, now at our company, just amazed. I was just in a Zoom meeting yesterday, and one of the guys you would never picture doing it, leading us in a meditation before we started our meeting. It just was so great, just for 5 minutes.
Yeah. And that's a misconception. People think that you've got to sit there and meditate like a monk for an hour or something, but you really don't need to do that.
When we start people, I start them with 2 minutes, because I found that even going 10 or 20 minutes when you first start, before your mind calms down a little bit, can be counterproductive. I can't tell you how many people say, I can't meditate. It's too crazy up there. It does calm down after a while. I say start with 2 minutes. And then after a month or so, you want to go more. After it calms down a little bit, you want to go more. And that's also the other reason that we do yoga, is to get it to calm down. When we place our attention in our body, calms the mind down. That's the major reason for yoga.
It forces the attention in the body to very specific areas as you do it.
Exactly. And that also takes you away from your brain, takes you away from the thought.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to find yoga last summer.
Awesome.
And I started doing it 2 or 3 times a week. Sunrise yoga. Of course, we were outside on the docks in Annapolis, and then when it got cold, I haven't done it since November now, or October.
Yeah.
So
I tell you what, do 5 or 10 minutes standing yoga. Just do a little stretch and get in your body. And then when you can get to a class, a little bit longer, but even 5, 10, 15 minutes a day can make a huge difference over time. We call it the slight edge or slow boils. Little tiny things over a long period of time, rather than these big dramatic shocks, are more sustainable.
Well, that's exactly right. When we talk about leading and teams and pulling people together, even just make micro changes, because over the long haul, those micro changes will have a powerful impact.
And they're sustainable if they can become habits. We want them to do over the long haul, have them become habits, because we become our habits. That's who we are, is our habits. So we want to start being aware of what habits we are, kind of replace some of the ones we don't like with habits that are supportive of what's my vision, what's my long-term goal, and what habits do I need to have to hit that? Because we're such habitual creatures. The stats say something like 95% of what we're doing is just one thing after another habitually. It's the next habitual grab. So if they're good habits, that can take me to where I want to go with very little very little effort. Habits are there to reduce the effort for an action. So, but without attention and intention, those habits could not all be positive. Like the story I was telling, I had some really bad habits,
I think we've all had some bad habits, and it's sometimes harder to break bad habits than to create new good habits.
Yeah, but
they can be done.
Yeah, environment's a big thing, and then the new habits can help you break the old. But and sometimes it takes that epiphany moment, like the one that I had, for people before they're ready to break a bad habit.
Right.
But it
and
can be
that's
really
kind of where I
important.
want to go, because when we think about leading and teamwork and culture in a business environment, the way we lead today is different, and we have to be mindful in how we lead on so many different levels. It's no longer just get the job done. You know, it's about becoming and allowing yourself to be a little vulnerable. It's about communicating better. It's about being self-centered in your own mind and body. So let's talk a little bit. You've got your 12 pillars of leadership I want to get to, but you've also got something in your book. I believe you call it the precision effect.
Procession effect.
Procession effect, not precision.
We'll
okay, procession.
Okay. And I did that for years before I learned what it was called.
So explain to us a little bit about what the procession effect is.
Well, it comes from physics originally. I mean, back in the Greek times, and then there was a guy named Buckminster Fuller, who was an architect in the 1930s that kind of coined it for the business operation, but it's how the world moves at 90-degree angles. Like when a honeybee goes and gets honey from a plant, it indirectly, 90 degrees, pollinates all the other flowers. That's not what the bee's original intention is, you know, or when the sun's pulling the earth towards it. Earth doesn't crash into the sun, it goes at 90 degrees and circles the sun. There's a lot of examples like that. And I found a lot of those examples, like in meditation that we talked about. Following my breath calms the mind. It's 90 degrees angled, or putting my attention in our body, like we talked before with yoga, calms the mind. If I focus directly on the mind, it's very difficult to calm it down. In business, I found one of the most powerful procession effects is public service, community service work. I'm out with other leaders working on an impactful project, building a habitat home or stuffing food bank boxes or whatever that is. And I worked at the university 20 years helping them with with different things. We get to meet people at a whole nother level when we're not, rather than being in a transaction, we're actually serving together to do something. We're working parallel to do something. And when that leader needs something, they ask me. For instance, you know, I was at an economic development board meeting, which was a nonprofit, and I was volunteering, very much involved with. Guy came up and said, Ralph came up to me and said, you know what? And I'm a real estate developer. He said, you know what, Eric, I love what you do at the university and the community. In North Fort Collins, they need a developer. Would you go talk to the North Fort Collins Business Association? And I said, sure. I went and had lunch with the president. 5 years later, I'm developing a major shopping center in North Fort Collins. And it happened because I was out in the community doing good things. That's my karma. I'm setting my karma. I'm out there. But the side effect, it isn't why I was there, but the side effect is business happens.
Right.
And I've got all kinds of those stories, and it's so much better for me than cold calling.
Absolutely.
Be out in the community and doing good things and just being aware of what might happen. Not like I'm there for it. I've got, you know, the breath of trying to, you know, steer a deal my way. That doesn't work. But I'm just there doing the right thing. And when something comes up, I'm just aware of it and open to it.
Exactly. There's several different ways to look at things of that nature, and just getting yourself and being open to seeing those doors, because sometimes we're so busy that we don't see the doors when they open.
Well, and I have found too, Greg, they're not just so busy, but we're so locked into what we wanted, what we thought was going to happen, and we're so disappointed we didn't get it. We miss what really is there. Because, you know, I've learned over 65 years that I don't really know what's going to happen. My brain is wired to think I know, but I don't really know whether that, you know, 9/11 or the tsunami or COVID or whatever, or the lottery. I don't really know what's coming. So if I can be more open to, you know, that I don't know, I mean, I have intentions of what I want to create, but if I don't really know, then I'm going to be more aware of all the opportunities that come. Because we have attentional blindness, you know, inattentional blindness. We see what we're looking for. We don't see everything else. So if we recognize that, we start noticing a bigger field, then there's opportunities.
Forest for the trees example.
Opportunities come up for me. I can tell so countless times in business. That's why failures are so important. Yeah, I failed at that. That didn't happen. But boo, what did happen? Oh, that happened. I could take it over there. I learned something I can take over there. Or I met somebody that had this possibility.
Yeah.
If I'm open to it. And I found that's the key to business.
Yeah. Now, I was watching a couple of your videos, and one of them was rather interesting. And you said something very early on in the podcast that you said you had all the success, but you weren't happy. So you had the Mercedes, you had the houses, you had all the stuff, you had all the stuff, but you were miserable. Now you are happy. You still have the stuff. Because
yeah.
I think that says you can't have the stuff and be happy.
I was stuck there for years because I'm a big reader. You see my background in my bookcase. And a lot of this work is in ancient Eastern texts, Buddhism, Hinduism, those kind of things. And I was stuck for a long time with that, just saying, boy, what I'm reading says I need to renounce my possessions, and if you read stories, a lot of renunciants, they renounce all their possessions, they beg for food. And I was stuck because I wasn't willing to do that. But I found that I'm not a renunciant, I'm a householder with responsibilities, and that is different for me. I don't have to do that, particularly if I'm willing to serve and give back, which is how I think capitalism works for everybody. If people serve and give what they can, then capitalism can work and be, I think it's the greatest system in the world, creating, generating, whatnot, but it can't just work for a few. It's got to work for everybody. And the only way I found that it works for everybody is if when I can give, I do give, lend a hand and do those kind of things. So I found, and what I say is my affluence increases my influence. I can make a bigger difference. I couldn't have wrote this book or started my nonprofit or gone to CSU and taught for 20 years or a lot of those things if I hadn't had some affluence. So I don't think affluence is the enemy at all. I think mindlessness is the enemy. If I can be mindful, then I'm going to be more compassionate, more generous, and more giving. And I take care of myself first. I do. But I also have room for others.
So let's talk.
I have found that comes back over and over again to me. Go ahead. Sorry, Greg.
I'm sorry. So let's find out here. I mean, we're into this a few minutes. So you said start off your mindfulness and your breathing and all of that, and it's got to be done on a repetitive basis. James Clear, and of course, the Atomic Habits book is just powerful.
It's a great one.
So when you stop to think about creating the habit, is there a time of day that is good? Should you do it the first thing in the morning, last thing at night, multiple times during the day? Should you take a break from meetings and just take 3 minutes to do some breathing? What works? And I know you're going to say it works differently for everybody.
You're right.
But so what is something I could do today that would start me down that path? Because they always say the greatest journey starts with the first step.
Yeah. I would say, first of all, a lot of people, meditation is a stumbling block and that you don't have to meditate. I find it in a busy professional world, it's very helpful. It certainly has been great for me. And I think it's a great inroad. But if someone's got a block with that, I start with simple. I'd say number one is be grateful. Gratitudes. It's simple. If it's an immediate mindset shift, I practice 3 gratitudes a day and what I'm grateful for and why am I grateful for them. And that has an after image effect that leads me out to start being grateful. And the intention of being mindful in what I do. So a mindful walk at lunch, can be great. Generally, giving you a full answer to your question, if you can bring yourself to meditate, start with a few minutes a day. I wouldn't worry when I started what time of day. I'd fit it in when it could. Eventually, once that becomes it, I think the morning, if you're a busy professional, can be the best time when you have a little control of your day by setting your alarm clock. And it puts you in that mindset. So when I walk out the door, I don't know what pitch I'm going to get that day. I don't know what a curveball, if there's going to be a spitball, I don't know what life's going to throw at me. But I do know my mindset is going to be the biggest factor that determines if I can hit or I strike out, what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. So I try to have a mindset when I walk out, when that car pulls out in front of me, it's not the finger. It's whatever it is. Or when I get that call from one of my kids, it's not, geez, it's, oh, how can I help you? the mindset is just so important. So I think the morning is the best time if you can, but I wouldn't use that as an excuse not to do it at all. I know people that have an evening practice that had one for 20, 30 years, and it's phenomenal. If that's when you can do it, do it. If it's lunch, do it.
Is it sometimes better to help people get started by doing like a group meditation?
If it's, yeah, some people are resistant to that. I mean, that, and also I find it's like, we run a group, a mindful leadership group. We're in about our seventh month of it. It runs a 9-month program. I find that the group is really helpful keeping people online and getting people to do a little longer meditation and those kind of things. But to wait and be dependent on a group, I think a group in addition to your private practice can be really helpful.
Okay.
And again, it depends on the person. Some people just don't want to do that. But if a group things helps you, I think what's really helpful is if, to start a practice and then find a program or a weekend retreat or something to start doing that's longer, but you can't do it every day, right? So you do what you can do, and then when you have more time, do more.
You said something earlier I thought was fascinating when you were talking about yoga. And doing the yoga gets the body thinking, but then it also changes the mind and the brain to a whole different direction to allow that brain to kind of clear out the clutter and defrag itself, if you will. How important is that?
I don't know that it's yoga has to be that important.
No, but yoga is one tool for that.
It is, exactly. I just want to make that point. And I encourage people to try it and learn the tools, because it is the science of consciousness, and learn how to get, to identified with your body. Because and particularly for a business person, I mean, that's where my intuition is. I mean, I run spreadsheets and all that stuff, but I have a gut feeling, about things. And then I try to go back them up, but I'm pretty much on, but I have a real sense if I walk in a building, this is going to work. Or in an interview with somebody, this is a match. This isn't a match. And I'm not always right, but it also allows you to tap into your intuition, your body, your gut, that many times we haven't really trusted. So, and for your mind, I think it's the first best refuge is your body. The stress levels before COVID were terrible. After COVID, they're unbelievable. The people are just so stressed and running and the first best refuge I found is my body. If I can get in my body and my breath and just, it kind of it spreads all the busyness in my head on a bigger mass and is immediately relieving for me.
And that's exactly where I was going, because in the yoga practice, we start to get so focused on that aspect of the body and doing the moves and holding the moves that your brain then opens up.
Stops. It stills.
Yeah.
It stills thought. That's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah.
And so yoga is used, ancient yoga was in preparation for meditation in two things. One is they didn't have chairs. So it was to prepare the body so you could sit comfortably. And two was, it was preparation and stilling the mind. Because in yoga, if you're properly doing it and you're placing your attention, it can be this simple. I might put my finger back and I'm placing my attention there. Stills the mind. And it's a huge technology.
Yeah.
This can be, and it's just so much easier.
I was not exactly a fan of wanting to go. And once I started going, I did fall in love with it.
So I have found, during COVID, I write about this in my book, is I didn't used to like weightlifting. I had to do it after I hit 50 to keep up. I love athletics, to keep doing what I was doing. And I was I didn't feel it was mindful. Well, during the pandemic, I lost a trainer, found a new trainer who would say, hey, slow down, more reps. Can you feel that muscle fire? Can you feel that? And she put me into my body rather than just pumping out as much adrenaline as I could and lift, it was like, oh, yeah. Wow.
It's a different thing.
It could be weightlifting. It could be Pilates. It can be, and running changed for me with mindfulness. I used to go on a run and just be in my head the whole time, a thought, and then, oh, that was good. I hardly knew I was here. And later I learned No, I missed the whole run. I missed the trees and the birds and the air. I was just in my head. I could have been anywhere. Yeah, I got the exercise, but I missed out on nature. I missed out on the rest of it, which mindfulness can bring. Like a mindful walk is one of the greatest things you can simply, like just at lunch, just 5 minutes with your phone on your desk, take a walk around the building.
Yeah.
Few breaths, and it can really be a reset for the afternoon.
So let's talk about business for a second.
Great. I
So
love business.
often, business executives, managers, doesn't matter your level, we focus on results. You talk about detaching yourself from results.
Yeah.
Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Well, you can't be in two places at the same time. Multitasking, we can multitask, but we can't be focused on many things.
Mm-hmm.
So if my brain is on the result, on the profit, then I can't be present with the people that I'm with. I can't be present with the customers or the employees or any of that. And I'm a stickler on profit and on goals and objectives and everything. So how we do it is I set up regular times, which we'll sit down and review the results. Some things are weekly, some things are monthly, some things are quarterly. Go through everything and say, this is what changes we're going to make. I focus on that completely. Then I let that go. And in between those meetings, I focus on the people. I focus on, I focus on being present with people that I'm with. I mean, how much do employees have to tell us that we don't hear, that we don't listen? We're so driven. And so, but and also profit is not a purpose. It's not. It's the result of a purpose-driven organization. If I'm delivering something that people want and I'm effective with it, then profit results. And obviously more profit's better than less profit. And if I don't make a profit, I need to get out of business or somebody's going to tell me to get out.
Right.
So it's not that I don't care about it. I do care about it, and it's important, and my affluence is important for my influence. But if I just focus on the profit, I can't be present. And being present will improve my results. I'll see more opportunities. I'll be present with people. When somebody has something to tell me, I'm more likely to hear it. And reduces stress, reduces anxiety, and makes me a better person to be around, period. I mean, there was a time in my life, I didn't even know someone else was in the room. And I still have that tendency because I run fast, I'm an achiever. But I notice it and I go, I apologize, sorry, I didn't even see you, can I get you something? It's just like just total transformation. And it's just not my, wasn't how I was. And so it takes some effort for me, but it's made a huge difference in my life.
Right. And when you stop to think about that, that's a great segue to get us into your pillars on leadership.
Great.
So, I've looked at your list, and the first one, of course, is to be present and practice mindfulness. We've touched on that one.
Yeah.
The second one, though, is an intriguing one to me, and that is to identify your purpose in life. Help people understand, some people wake up and they know their whole purpose is to be a physician, to save lives and have a powerful impact. Others know it's a ministry from God. Others know that it's to do something else.
Yeah.
What is your purpose? And baseball players, it's not to play baseball, it's to be able to have an impact, such as people like LeBron James and giving back. So,
I find, and I follow Eckhart Tolle on this. I really, he's where I read and I followed in my book. I've expanded on it, but he talks about an inner purpose and an outer purpose. Inner purpose is kind of who I am and what I bring to whatever situation. And that's an awakening. I mean, to realize that I have a consciousness, that I'm a body and I'm a conscious being in a body, and to constantly be awakening to that and realize that I have awareness is, to me, purpose. That's what makes me human, to notice that. And then I have outer purposes, which is what I'm doing. I want to bring presence to whatever I'm doing. And I have found that if I show up with presence, I show up in a very powerful and persuasive way. I'm there. People know I'm there. I know they're there. I know what the task is. I have intention. I have vision. I'm driven. And I really get a lot done. I'm focused. And so if I'm not aware of my inner purpose of presence, then I don't even really know when I'm showing up, when I'm there and when I'm not there. So my best days,
Okay.
I go in and out of thought, right? I go in my head and I drift, like I drive by the exit, basically, anybody driven by the exit ramp on the highway. Oh, well, there it goes. Oh, I got to go down to the next one and turn around. Well, I wasn't present, right? That happens all the time, with us. So can I start noticing when I'm there and not there? And presence is where those gaps occur. I talk about living in the gap. It's where one thought stops before another one starts, or that inner dialogue that we have talking to us in our head calms down a little bit. It's where peace and joy are. Anxiety and stress are in thought. So if I can start being present, I can start being happier. And presence and happy are synonyms to me.
Okay.
That is when I'm present, I'm happy, I'm joyful. If I'm thinking about what I should be doing or what I didn't do or what somebody did to me, and I'm in these thoughts, that's not happiness to me.
Yeah, at that point, you're letting somebody else control your thoughts.
Exactly. And being present is when I'm happiest. And then can I bring that to what I'm doing? Can I bring that? First of all, most people have some activity they're present. For my wife, it's painting. For me, it's snow skiing. Some people it's fly fishing or woodworking or knitting. Most people have something that they do when they're present and they're joyful. A lot of times we've gone away from it because society hasn't rewarded it, and we've gotten so busy with job, family, responsibilities, boom, boom. Oh yeah, I remember when I used to fly fish. That was the greatest. I haven't done that in 10 years. Well, we say, let's go find that again, because if I find that, then my goal, we train professionals, and I love to work. My goal is to bring that presence to work. Can I get that feeling that I have in those activities and to be in flow in a work situation where I spend most of my time, 8-10 hours a day? I love to, a lot of times Saturdays. I mean, can I be happy and present when I'm working? If I can, it's not work anymore.
Right.
It isn't like a have to thing. It's like I get to.
Right. And sometimes getting on stage or doing the end result is absolutely being present.
Absolutely.
But when you're doing the other grunt work to get to that point, what's the first thing you will tell somebody to do? If they recognize that they're not present, what is something they can do? Because in today's society, I think we've got so many adults, and I'm going to use the term adult onset ADD. They may not have had the ADD as a child, but now they've got this ADD, and the pandemic has intensified that.
Yeah.
So what's something somebody can do today to start to realize I'm not present? This is what I need to do.
To start paying attention to your breath is the number one thing. And that is, like, if I close my eyes and just listen to it, maybe the first thing. But the breath it's always there. It's present. It ties my body and the spiritual world and the outside world and everything. It's a tie. If I can follow my breath, I'm present. What's really great about a meditation routine, if somebody's able to do that, is after a while, when I get in a stressful situation, something happens, rather than just reacting, I just notice I'm in my body breathing. And from there, I can handle almost anything. I mean, I don't want to watch what I wish for, because I'm not looking for more stress in my life. But from that position, I just have a broader perspective and can deal with things. If I'm, in a small mind and mind like that, and the littlest thing comes up, my mind's like a gnat, and it's just like anything irritates me. But if I can come from that broader perspective and just be in breath and just know, this too shall pass, then I can handle a lot more.
Let's look at another one of your pillars.
Please.
Number 12.
Great.
The beginner's mind means to know nothing absolutely and to be curious.
Yeah.
I have the old expression of, if you're not learning or if you're not growing, you're dying.
Well, life's a great mystery, right? Einstein and how many are just saying, well, life's a great, look at Isn't it amazing that here we are in 2023 and they're still arguing, debating consciousness? We don't even really have a full grasp of it. There's not a, and it's the basis of life. We don't even know we have a life without consciousness. Life is a great mystery. We are wired to think we know, for the big things and the little things. And science is great at teaching us how one thing relates to another. But science doesn't tell us where we came from, doesn't tell us why we love, doesn't tell us, the base of the source that moves in and all through all things, but it tells us great things about how one thing relates to another, and it's important.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a bigger picture that we just don't have any clue about. So it's just residing in that kind of a world, and just residing in, how. And the other thing is, I always think I know what's good for somebody else or what they're thinking. And the truth is, I don't. I have a hard enough time figuring out what I'm thinking about something most days. So, but we think we're in that, and some people are more clairvoyant than others. And, I don't have that gift, but it's just a recognition of that we don't know everything, that there's things that we don't know. And to acknowledge that is confidence and strength, and gives us a broader perspective. Curiosity drops our judgment and gives us a bigger view, looking for more possibilities, I think.
The next one is number 10. It's about acceptance means to stop resisting and complaining.
Yeah.
Which, that sounds easy in theory, not as easy in practice.
Yeah. I have people journal about it for a week, just, write down every time you complain. But acceptance is huge for awareness. When we don't accept something, our mind is closed around it. It's just it's not so. And there's, I think, a misconception that acceptance means that you're okay with something. And it doesn't mean that at all. It just means you acknowledge what is. If I accept it, then I can change. Carl Rogers, one of the great psychotherapists, said, when I accept things just as they are, then when I accept myself just as I am, then I'm ready to change. Then I can change. If I don't accept myself, then I'm in some form of denial. And it's hard for me to really make real change. My awareness is more limited. Once I accept it, my awareness grows. I become more aware of it and the possibilities and when I'm headed down that road, and then I can take actions to make real change. If I don't accept it, then I'm still in some form of denial about it, and I'm much less likely to be able to make effective change around it. The key is that accepting it doesn't mean I like it, or I'm okay with it, or that I'm not going to try to change it. It just means I acknowledge it. I'm aware of it.
So that brings me to one of the things. I was watching one of your videos, and I'm going to butcher the statement the way you said it, but you said, whether it's in business or in life, we can have disagreements, just don't argue.
Yeah, we do. Disagreements are healthy. Yeah. We don't know. We got to agree and debate and see which debates stand up. Mm-hmm. And then how many people think of one way and how many think another, and move forward and compromise.
Exactly. And that's where we get there. That goes back to your other pillar, is being able to accept and be open to it.
Yeah. And to compromise, because we're not all going to get our own way. We're just not.
Oh, why not?
We're just not. Not if we leave the house, Exactly. Maybe not even in the house.
Right. Exactly.
So if we're not willing to compromise, then it's an argument and it's not productive. Just see the gridlock that we have. I mean, we're distracted, divisive, and gridlocked. And that's arguments, one side, and it's one side trying to beat the other all the time, rather than, and even if you beat the other side, you got 49% against you. That's just no way to run a world.
No.
I think we need to get back to just saying, and business, I think, is the key to it. The business is saying enough. Let's move the needle. We don't care left or, I think bringing ideologies into business is a really slippery slope. I want to have all the employment pool that I can. I want to have a full customer base that I can. I want to run a business and make a profit. And that's what I'm there to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think once we start, there's been a lot of it happen here in the last 10 years or so, people saying, oh, I'm only going to invest in, this belief or that belief. And I just think that I don't run a business that way. I think it's risky.
Right.
Now, South Africa, they were on the precipice, sorry about that, of civil war, right, during apartheid. And the business community said enough. Figure this out. We want to run a business and get along. We want to be able to operate.
Yeah.
We can't. It doesn't work for business. So my hope is, I'm a dreamer. I'm an optimist. Is a business in the end, I don't know how bad it has to get here. It's going to say enough. We're not funding anybody that's not moving us, within the guardrails down the field. Let's move. We want to make money. And I'll take my ideologies to the ballot box and, to the dinner table, not at the business. When I have all ideologies, I got all genders, I got all political parties, pulled together for a common cause. What a beautiful situation business is. It's a fantastic. And we get along.
My definition of a great team too.
We get along.
Yeah.
We're mandated to, and we do. And if we bring mindfulness in the workplace, then I bring it home. My spouse gets it. My kids get it. It goes to sports teams.
So let's bring this back around.
Please.
When I was talking to somebody the other day, and I knew your interview was coming up, and I'd read some of your materials, I was telling somebody about what we're going to talk about in mindfulness, and they used the phrase, that's just a bunch of foo-foo crap.
I say that all the time. Yeah.
What do you say to somebody? You're not going to change anybody. You're definitely not going to change them. So what was it in your brother that you saw that got you kind of engaged into this?
I saw that one person changing can change the world. It changed my world, changed my family. That was my whole world.
Mm-hmm.
One person changing their perspective just de-escalated, 10 or 15 years of anxiety in a family. Brought the whole thing together, and just further, I use the word you use, foo-foo, I use woo-woo. Business people tell me all the time, well, it's just woo-woo. It's too slow and soft for business. And I say, no, woo-woo is the current state of the world. Distracted, divisive, gridlocked. Mindfulness is the ability to focus and be happy and achieve my objectives. Be focused. There's nothing contrary or woo-woo about focus. In a business context, mindfulness is the ability to focus. Get the phones out of the room. Don't be on your laptop and in a meeting at the same time or on your smartphone. Mm-hmm. That's mindfulness. It's not like holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It is if you want to be, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
It's focus and being aware so I think they're wrong. I think they're wrong about it. And but as you say, you won't change everybody.
If I came to you and said, oh, that's just a bunch of woo-woo, what are you going to tell me?
Well, I wouldn't argue with you. I would probably keep moving. I would just say that's not my experience.
What is it? It's
and it's not.
I think Henry Ford said, well, you think you can, I think you're right, you can't, you're right.
Yeah. But I don't, I'm not, if someone is that locked in,
mm-hmm.
then, probably a conversation with me is not gonna change them. Now, if they came to me, the greatest thing is when someone comes to you and says, geez, where did you get that smile? We're losing money. Why doesn't it bother you? That was a bad thing. Why are you still okay? I'd say,
and that's kind of what happened to me.
Mindfulness.
That's what happened to me. Oh gosh, I guess it was over 40 years ago. I had gone to a seminar. I got a free ticket to go see a seminar with a sales professional named Tom Hopkins.
Uh-huh.
And I used the term, that's just a bunch of foo-foo. And I went and watched him, and my life was changed like that.
Oh, awesome.
because he got me into understanding things. And then, of course, I love Zig Ziglar, who says, well, if you took a shower today, that's great. Why did you? Because the one yesterday wore off? Because motivation and mindfulness has to be done something every day.
You got to constantly be dipping in the inkwell. Yeah, I think it's, we've been taking our whole life to be not present. It's going to take a little work to be present, to work on that. But I don't know. I focus on the yeses, not on the negative. I focus, there's enough people out there that are interested and want to change their life and find a different way to operate. It's just amazing to me the amount of successful professionals that aren't happy.
Yeah.
They're stressed. They're just on a treadmill of, let's get the next house. Let's, we got to go on this dream vacation, and they got everything in a little mindset shift. Boom, shows them, man, my kids don't necessarily have to go there. What they want really is my time. Yeah. Maybe I'll go coach their softball team, or what, it is, and it, boom, their whole world changes.
Yeah.
That they realize that they are walls that people need is their attention. It isn't all the things that we think are going to make us happy. Yeah. It's the connections and the relationships and the presence with other people.
Right. And there's number 7 in your list about fostering the relationships with your word and being able to listen and be in tune and being, I've used your word here, present in every conversation.
Well, not about every conversation. That's a stretch. For me, it would be. But for some,
in many of our conversations.
My wife would knock the door down and say, well, you weren't present with me last night anyway. I tried. But I mean, our ordinary state is getting ready for what we're going to say, judging, stereotyping, I already know, type of things. And the people we're closest with us were the biggest offenders of, because in my experience, we already think we know what they're going to say. So why bother listening to them? Yeah,
that's a trap I think every single one of us have fallen into at some time or another.
If you can find a way, and I'll say a home example, but in business, it's critical. If you can find a way you get home at night to really listen, your home life will change. When you walk in the door, if it's not just, woe is me, give me a beer, kick the dog, give me the remote. If you can find a way to take a pause a little bit and listen to what went on with the other person's day, not fix it, but just listen, things change. And what about an employee, or, I'm a real estate developer, and we, it takes months to get people around the table to have a meeting. If I can listen and make sure I know what every person said, I just, it's a great meeting. Mm-hmm. But if I let that go, it's 2 months before I get them back together again. And I have to be able to listen and hear people, not just what I want to hear, but what did they really say? What is that what you said? And really get flat with it.
Is that what you said? And is that what you meant?
Yeah.
Making sure there's clarity.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I love about podcasts, is that I go back and I probably re-listen to every single podcast from a listener's point a week or two after it airs. Because I want to go back and listen to it now, because I'm as present as I can be through the process we're in. I will get more out of this in 2 weeks than I probably did today.
Awesome.
That's a
great practice.
So here's a question for you as we get ready to wrap up, because we've already been here for about 38 minutes.
Sure.
Your book is coming out in a couple of weeks.
March 7th.
Early March. Yep, it's coming out. It's called Profit with Presence. Now that's Presence, not Presents. So let's tell us just a quick dialogue about the book.
Yeah, it starts with a conceptual framework of the latest theories of consciousness, the precession effect. It's a non-secular. It's a secular book. It's not about any particular dogma. It's just about some lessons, and then the 12 pillars, which is really a manual for living. Okay. How can you live a life? And it's not just business or just home. It's everything.
Right.
It's where you can live your life in both places. And then I take it into what is a mindful corporation, what's a mindful CEO, and how do you foster mindfulness in a corporation if that's what you want to do? Because I think the real opportunity for us here in a capitalist society, nobody has the time for mindfulness. They think doesn't take as long as they think, and everyone's stressed at work. So what a great opportunity to practice mindfulness at work, use it to focus, to make a difference in communities, to start volunteering. Those kind of things can just be a huge, huge win. And I end with a new conceptual worldview, just in kind of my view of how things could change and what I see as a way out of this kind of what I call kind of a mess that we're in worldwide. Mm-hmm. So it's hopeful, a hopeful new conceptual worldview that I paint. And it's business. I love business. I think business is going to lead us out of this in the end. I just hope they don't wait till it gets too bad. I hope the leaders come together and say, yeah, let's fix this.
Yeah. As we get ready to wrap up, I'm going to challenge folks here. First off, if they need to reach you, what's the best way to reach out to you? Obviously, they can go pre-order the book now through all the regular sources. But what's one of the best ways they can reach you if they want to learn more about what you do?
Yeah, the website, livinginthegap.org. Livinginthegap.org. It's a 501c3 nonprofit. All of our programs are there. There's free resources if you want to learn a little more about this, how to meditate. There's a free 21-day mindfulness series, 10 minutes a day, delivered to your mailbox. There's a list of books in addition to the Profit with Presence that could get you started. Those kind of any of our workshops are there. There's a newsletter that we publish monthly.
Okay.
All that stuff's there, and you can reach out if you want to reach out. Just send a note in to us, and we'll contact you.
Okay, so that's livinginthegap.org.
Exactly.
Okay, I want to make sure we spell that all the way out there, because first time I went to it, I went living the gap. I just missed the word in. I want to challenge everybody right now. If you're still listening right now at the end of our podcast, I want to challenge everybody. Stop the podcast. Do 2 minutes of deep breathing. Focusing in on it, just sitting in your car. Pull over, please. And just breathe. And tell me if you don't feel different. Tell me if you don't feel different. Do that every day. Is that a good start, Doctor?
Awesome. And if you want that, close your eyes and just listen to your breathing. That's a great way to start.
Yeah.
Just hear it for a minute and then let that go. That's an awesome way to start. And 2 minutes is all it takes to get started. You'll feel like more later. Yeah.
I appreciate your time. Love to have you back on again down the road. Talk about this again a little bit further, see how things have changed, and go for it. Folks, if you like what we're talking about here on our podcast, be sure to hit the like buttons, subscribe to us, share it with your friends. We've been downloaded now in 79 countries around the world. We were over 100 episodes in, and we're getting stronger every single day. Dr. Holsapple spoke with us today about mindfulness and how that can help us build our internal team to help our external teams grow, whether in home or in business. It does not matter. When you listen to the Teamwork Advantage, we know that you're not average. So when you leave here today, remember, make today an excellent and exceptional day. Till next week, take care. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to the Teamwork Advantage with Greg Gregory. Be sure to like, subscribe, and activate the bell icon to be notified of future episodes. To learn more about how Greg can help your organization develop a powerful winning culture, visit TeamsRock.com. That's TeamsRock.com.